All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of my interviews here on Drip Talk with Blake Disnag Roberts. Today, I have a very special guest with me. He is a former pro wrestler. He has wrestled for the companies WCW, WWF, NWA, Ring of Honor, MCWA, SWCW, and much, much more. He is no other than Rudy Boy González. So we will get him on in here and then we will start with the interview. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. It's not you, man. I have hard time with computers and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, no worries. All right. So I'll start off by asking my first question. When did you start doing wrestling and what made you want to do it?
I started. I got in the wrestling business in 1982 with Southwest Championship Wrestling here in San Antonio. Why I got into it, mainly curiosity, I guess. I had a 3 year plan. I was going to try this for a couple of years and then move on. And 3 years turned to 5 years, and 5 years turned to 3 more years, and 3 more years, and 3 more years, and here we are 40 years later, 42 years later, and still trying to figure it out.
Crazy, yeah. See what wrestling can do to you. I mean, it just keeps moving you on and on.
Yeah, exactly. Time flies.
Yep. What age were you when you officially knew you wanted to become a wrestler?
Um, so I started when I was 18, but I didn't really figure out. I mean, I didn't get into the wrestling business to be a wrestler. I got into the wrestling business to learn the business, to learn the business part of it, the promoting part and stuff. And then as time went by, guys started asking me to get in the ring and roll around with them and stuff like that. And uh, my first match was in February of '84, so it's like 2 years later. So somewhere in that time, I made a decision to try the wrestling part, and uh, so I tried it, and I'm still trying it. Um, so I guess I was about 20, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah. Did you watch wrestling as a kid? If so, who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
I didn't watch wrestling as a kid. My dad watched wrestling, and so down here it came on TV around midnight or so, and then it's followed by roller derby. So I was always asleep by then, but every now and then I stay up and watch it. My dad took me to a couple of shows when I was younger, and I was just telling someone the other day, with WrestleMania passing by, Thunderbolt Patterson was on that show that I went to go see, and Red Bastien, a guy named Rick Martel, Rocky Johnson was there. Peter Maivia was there. Wahoo McDaniel. Uh, I really didn't have any favorites until I came across Tully Blanchard, and the only reason why I latched on to Tully was because Tully was a high school quarterback here in San Antonio, and so I was heavy into football when I was younger, and so I recognized Tully as a quarterback here, and so when I saw him backstage at the wrestling shows, I started gravitating toward him. Little did I know though that guys like Wahoo McDaniel and Bruiser Brody and Ernie Ladd and the Funks and Dusty Rhodes, some of these guys, they were also football players, and so I kind of started settling in at that time.
Yeah. And Thunderbolt Patterson, like you said, got just inducted to the Hall of Fame. How do you feel and what did you think about his induction?
I'm happy for him. I'm happy for anybody that gets inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, that's an accomplishment. It's a recognition. Um, so and again, all I could think about was me and my dad sitting in the, I don't know, like 10th row or something. I mean, we didn't get ringside seats. I know that. And I remember Thunderbolt having this tremendous headbutt and headbutting everybody. And I mean, I remember he was even way back then he was a big star. And I remember him doing the promos and stuff in the ring and interviews and what have you, and then seeing him, older and basically beat up, I mean, and slow and what have you, and it just, I'm glad I got to see him in his younger years.
Yeah. He was great with his promos. He was incredible.
Right.
If you watch the business now, who do you like to watch now and who's your favorite?
I watch everybody. I mean, it's a whole different type of the product is completely different than when I started. Um, Everybody brings a little bit of something different to the table. Um, you know, there's the kid Dragunov that's in NXT. There's Santos Escobar. There's Braun Baker. There's Randy Orton. There's Cody. There's Roman Reigns. Everybody brings something different. So it's I like watching the shows when I get a chance to, and I really watch the way they interact. How the guys interact with the crowd and stuff, and and then at the independent level, guys are still trying to feel their way through and stuff. And it's pretty enjoyable watching those guys too, because after you see them maybe once or twice, and then you catch them again maybe a year later, you see the drastic improvement that they've made and the differences that they've made over the last year or so. I mean, there's really no one in particular I like watching. I like watching everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And do you like the other companies as well that you watch as?
I don't watch. You mean like AEW?
Yeah.
I don't really watch them as much. It's and I know a lot of the guys that are in that company, and they're good boys. I mean, I'm not knocking nobody. It's just a different feel to the shows, and I just don't gravitate towards those guys that group as much as I do with the WWE and NXT groups. And I'm not saying I'm a WWE fanboy or nothing like that, because I watched the Lucha Libre, I watched the New Japan stuff, I watched a lot of different things, but it's just but I watch Ring of Honor, and that's basically the same company. But the AEW, the Collision shows and that stuff, I just don't watch it. I just don't.
Yeah. Who were your personal wrestling trainers?
So back when I started, there wasn't any wrestling schools. There was a ring at the place where we did our TV, and guys would meet up there at 10 o'clock in the morning or noon or whatever, depending on where they had to travel at that day. And you would show up. I didn't really wrestle that much. I was the ring guy and referee and stuff, and so I didn't do that every day. I did it in the beginning like 3 or 4 times a week. So just to learn, I would show up at 10 o'clock, and whoever showed up, I would get in the ring with them. And so I mean, it was guys like Manny Fernandez, Chavo Guerrero, Gino Hernandez showed up a couple of times. A guy named Ali Bay the Turk, a guy named Grenade Boyer, a guy named Bill Howard, a guy named Steve Simpson, Nick Kelly Kaniski, just different guys would show up. Bobby Fulton and I can't think of his name. He's a friend of Bobby Fulton, but they'd show up and we just get in the ring and do stuff, and hey, what if I did this? And Tony Falk, that's what I'm thinking of, Tony Falk. And we, hey, what if I try, what if I did this, and what if I took your arm and just we just try stuff, and then we teach each other the conventional headlocks and all, the other things that you don't normally see in matches. So I mean, I had a bunch of I tell guys I was fortunate because I had a lot of different trainers, and back then it wasn't I tell my guys all the time I was never abused. Every now and then a guy named Tank Patton, who was a tough dude, he would come in there and like just walk you through stuff. Uh, a guy named Tim Brooks, who was a tough guy at the time, walk you through stuff, teach you things, explain things to you. It was a way different culture than what it is now. I mean, now guys, obviously you got to pay for a wrestling school, and then some guys don't want to teach you stuff because they're scared you're going to take their spot, or they want to teach you something dangerous, or it's just a different deal now.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear that you got trained by as so green and that by these veterans, all of them, you know.
I mean, they were names like I mean, I tell my students, they're you can Google these guys and find out who they are. Like a lot of them, they don't know. If I mention Dick Slater, they don't know who that is. If I mention Tully Blanchard, they're like, "Is that Tessa's dad?" Yeah, yeah, that's Tessa Blanchard's dad. Yeah, um, the guys that guy you guys read about today. I actually got in the ring with them and stuff, and that was a huge privilege, especially for me because I wasn't supposed to be in the wrestling. Back then it was you got in the wrestling business if you knew somebody or you're related to somebody, and I wasn't related to nobody, and I didn't know nobody. Joe Blanchard just liked me for whatever reason, and kind of like pushed me along.
Yeah. Was there anybody specifically that was family and or wrestling wise that helped you get into the business or inspired?
Not bad. I mean, my when I got in, my mom and dad were upset. They're pretty pissed off. So I really didn't get no assistance from any family members. But you learn pretty quickly once you get in, and if you I'm not gonna say play the game right, but if you show that if you come in humble and you show the respect that these guys deserve, you develop you create a whole new family, and so that's where I'm at. Like I tell guys all the time, nobody understands the stuff that I've been through except for guys that have been through what I've been through. My mom and dad certainly never understood. My brothers and sisters, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, they didn't know what this was about. So whenever issues came up and I needed someone to talk to, it was always somebody within the industry, that I would reach out to.
Yeah. Who would you say has been the stiffest wrestler you've gotten in the ring with so far in your career?
Um, Two guys that I trained was Brian Kendrick and Brian Danielson, and it's because um, that's just how that's how they were trained by me and Sean, and because they're smaller guys, we always told them to make their stuff stick, lay their stuff in. You're smaller, so bigger guys complain that you're being too hard or hitting too hard, then they should get out of business. And so when it came time for matches, and I had matches with both Bryans, those guys would lay their stuff in, and I couldn't say hey, that's too hard because I'm the one that told them they had to do that. So I
Yep.
mean, they laid their stuff in, and I'm not complaining about it at all. I mean, I seeing what they've done, and the other guys that have gone through school and stuff, seeing what they've done and what have you as the years have gone by, man, I'm proud of them. But I will say, like guys that I've been in the ring with, guys like Bruiser Brody and I mean, you would think those guys were the stiff guys and the guys that were going to knock your head off, but those guys were actually, without saying too much, well, maybe I am saying too much. Those guys were actually the easiest guys to get in the ring with because they're, they knew how to control their whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, I've also seen guys like Bruiser Brody kick a guy's head off, because he was pissed off for whatever reason. But I never got that treatment. I was never abused when I was coming into the business. I was never abused by anybody.
Yeah. And I actually didn't know that you trained Brian Danielson and Brian Kendrick. That's pretty interesting and cool to see how far they've gone now. That's great.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't know that. But that's good though. That's fine. That's great.
Were you ever in any like school or amateur wrestling as a kid?
So when I started training, there was a guy here named Larry Lane that was training the guys for Southwest Wrestling, and Larry Lane was an All Army wrestling champion and bronze medalist in the gold in the World Games and stuff like that. He was legit shooter, as they say. And so I trained with him from January, February, March, April, till I think around May, and then he finally left. And so it was left for me and another guy to kind of train the students that were at the school at the time. And there was an older gentleman that would come by. He actually trained amateur wrestling at the downtown Y. His name was Mr. Blumberg. And so he'd come and show us stuff also. But he was like an older guy. We were in our 20s and he was in his 50s or 60s. So he made the suggestion that, and we're talking about 1982. So back then, amateur wrestling wasn't a big deal here in San Antonio. So there was an AAU group that did wrestling, and they had these little meets in San Antonio. So I'd go and jump in those, and I did pretty good here in San Antonio. And then in one of those meets, someone mentioned something about a big tournament in Fort Worth, Texas, and they were going to have guys from Oklahoma and Denver or Colorado and Iowa and different places from the Midwestern states. And so you should go and enter it. So I did, and I got beat within 30 seconds of first match. I wrestled a guy from Texas Tech or something. He was actually from Oklahoma, and he'd wrestled all his life, I guess, or whatever. And here I am. I had like 6 months of actually training under my belt, and this guy put me on the mat, and I was done. 30 seconds. And so that was that. And then like a couple weeks later, I wrestled at a place it was a school for the deaf and blind in Austin, Texas. And I wrestled a blind kid, and same thing. And I realized really very quickly how much I didn't know. So then guys at the time like Kelly Kaniski and this guy Ali Bay the Turk, he was a legitimate wrestling guy. Grenade Boyer, he knew some stuff in mixed martial arts, and they would start showing me some stuff. And I mean, I'm by no way am I saying I'm the next Kurt Angle or whatever at the time or anything like that, but they helped me learn, they helped expand my knowledge of that type of stuff or whatever. But I had very little amateur wrestling background or anything like that coming in. Very little.
Yeah. Well, at least you got some of the training and seeing what it was like, and that probably helped you in your actual wrestling career too. I mean,
yeah. So later on, I ventured out down to Mexico, and so they put me in a match against a guy named Solar in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, and that was my test match. And so I had gone down there several weeks, and they didn't have any room for me. And then finally went down there, and the promoter said, "Yeah, put your stuff on." So I put my gear on. I was given the first match against this guy named Solar, and Solar, it turns out, was like he was like an Olympic wrestler from the Mexican Olympic wrestling team, and he so by this time, this was like I started in '82, so this was like around 89, 90 or so, maybe 88. And so I didn't. I mean, he. I didn't school him. That's for sure. But he tried to, take advantage of me here and there, and I defended myself. Um, I didn't let he wasn't able to stretch me or nothing like that. And and then the following week they put me in another match with another guy. He wasn't quite as skilled, but he was still he still knew how to put guys in knots and stuff like that. And I did well with him. And then the third week they did the same thing with another guy. And then finally the fourth week that I went down there, I guess I proved to them that I wasn't some schmuck or whatever. So they started putting me in matches where I could actually you know wrestle and work and stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah. What do you consider to be a weakness and a strength in wrestling?
My weakness, God, I don't know. It's I think after all these years, I think there's opportunities that I missed, and so that's kind of hurt me in the long run. But at the same time, because I've been around for so long and I've seen so much, I think one of my strengths is that I bring 40 years of knowledge to the table, 40 years of seeing wrestling change and adapting and watching guys do different things and seeing how the audience has changed and how it's evolved, and then devolved and so I mean, I like here at training. I'm here at the wrestling school right now. We always have a talk afterwards, and I always share, back in the day, and sort of guys can like compare it to what's going on today to what happened yesterday. Both my strength and my weaknesses is just my time in the business, and the time in the business I didn't take advantage of opportunities that I should have. But at the same time, I do have the experience and the years behind me that I can fall back on, for reference of different things.
Yeah, for sure. Is it hard traveling from show to show, and what was the worst or best thing about traveling?
I don't think it's hard at all. Maybe the hardest part of anything, I guess, is just you're driving home, and depending on how far you're traveling, sometimes it's a 6, 7, 8 hour drive. Sometimes it's all night. I think the hardest part is that time that even if you have a carload full of guys, everyone's asleep, and there's that time that you have to think, reflect, um, and that's where you come to you come to grips with a lot of things, and you got to get through, you got to fight through, whatever, there may be some negativity somewhere in there, and you got to fight through it and make it positive. um but traveling, man, I've always loved it. I was always the guy. That was one of my jobs when I started, was to pick up guys from the airport and take them to the shows. um and I never had a problem doing it. I picked up the Road Warriors from the airport. I picked up the Fabulous Ones, Tommy Rich, Randy Savage, Carlos Colon, the Zambu Express. I traveled with all the guys that were here because, um, after the shows, they're tired, they're beat up, and they want to go to sleep and relax. So maybe they, you know, took something to help them sleep, and I just drove, and I didn't have a problem doing that. I enjoyed it, and to this day when we go out of town and we do shows out of town, or I have to go somewhere, I have to go to Tampa, Florida, or like when I go to the Performance Center, I got to be there Sunday evening. I leave here Saturday morning, and it's really like a 13, 14 hour, 15 hour drive, but I'll leave Saturday morning and just take my time driving up there and stopping at, the gas stations and just, observing the local population, or grabbing something to eat and just sitting back at a Cracker Barrel and just relaxing or what have you. I mean, I have no problem at all with the travel and stuff of wrestling.
Wow, yeah. So you talked about that you go to the performance center. Are you talking about the WWE Performance Center, correct?
Right.
So you do training sometimes there.
So I'll come in periodically, like, and they bring me in for a week, and it's basically to. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie. When I go there, I'm in awe. I mean, um, Matt Bloom is the head guy there, and I love him to death. I have nothing but respect for him. And he'll tell me, "Get in the ring, man. Get in the ring." But I'm in such awe of the trainers. First of all, Norman Smiley and Robbie Brookside, and Sean's there also, and uh, Terry Taylor's there, and you know, and then the athletes they bring in, they bring in the NIL guys, the guys from college that go through the trials and stuff, and those guys are like beasts, man, and they're so graceful and like bulls in China stores, but at the same time, man, I mean, they just and so and I'm not gonna lie, man. Matt Bloom will pull me aside and say, "You got to get in there and show those guys some stuff," or do, and I'm like, "All right," and I do, but I still find myself, you know, just like, "Holy cow," and then just being at that facility, that's like the mecca of any red. Like back when I started, we had a ring and a musty old gym. It used to be a bar actually, and when it was cold in the winter, it was freezing inside the building. When it was hot in the summer, it was burning up in that place like an oven. And the ring was what it was. It wasn't, like at the performance center, they're state of the art rings. They have padding, 2-inch padding under the canvases. Just the floors are all padded, and they have 7 rings in the place, and they have a medical staff there, and I mean it's just unreal. And so my biggest uh, my biggest uh, fall there or fault or whatever is that I get caught up in being there. I'm so happy and so uh, just blown away by being at that place that I kind of get lost in the what I'm supposed to be there for. Um, but I enjoy it, and then whatever I learn from over there, I bring it over here. And I don't have world class athletes here, but I have a bunch of kids that work hard. So, it's not, whatever those guys in Orlando do with ease, these guys here struggle with. And I always, I tell them, I don't understand how a guy that is 6'8" and, 280 pounds can do this, but you're 5'8" and you're, 220 pounds, but you can't, and it just blows me away. But I enjoy it
Yeah.
though. I enjoy it a lot.
Hmm. And it's great to see that the WWE still brings you in for that. It's pretty cool.
Right. I mean, it's not something I take for granted. The last time that I went, they made me go through a full physical and stuff, and I was like, holy cow. But it was good because I learned that I wasn't exactly as healthy as I thought I was. And so I got on point, and so everything is fine.
Yeah. Who was your first opponent in front of a crowd, and how did you feel going into that first match?
So so my job at that time was to just ring the bell for the TV shows. And so matches started at 8 o'clock, and it was 7:45 or so. And one of the wrestlers, Al Perez, comes to me and he says, "What size shoes you wear?" And I said, 10 and a half. And he said, "What size shorts do you wear?" And I said, "Medium." And he said, "Come on." And I'm like, "Come on where?" He goes, "We need you in the back." And so apparently somebody no showed, and they needed somebody to take their place. And I had trained, I had some experience bumping, and I had some ring experience. And so somebody said, "We're missing a guy. Hey, go get Rudy. He's up in the front." And so they pulled me to the back. A guy named Eric Embry loaned me a pair of boots. A guy named Bobby Fulton loaned me a pair of trunks. And my first match was a tag match with another guy named Manuel Villalobos against the sheep herders, who later on turned into the bushwhackers. And that match was probably, I don't know, it was probably like, no, we'll say 5 minutes. But it's at sometimes when I think about it, it seems like it was 1 minute because everything happened so fast. And then sometimes when I think about it, it seemed like it was like 10 minutes because I try and replay everything, and it's just like, man, there's so much was done in that time. And 1 minute the fans see me holding the hammer to ring the bell, and then 20 minutes later see me coming out to the ring, and so there you could hear people in the audience, is that Rudy González? What's he doing? Oh my God, what's he doing wrestling? And stuff like that. So that doesn't help your confidence any. But then again, I didn't have time to get nervous. I understood that. I understood that even at that time, I understood how important TV was. And even though somebody no showed and I'm filling a spot, now I'm in that spot, and my spot is important because we have to we have to present this match, and it had to look a certain way, and there was no room for me to f up. And I'm sure if I did, they would have understood. So I mean, I did my hardest to try and keep up and listen to what was going on, but yeah, my first match was a world tag team title match with the Sheepherders.
Oh wow.
Welcome to wrestling.
That's pretty big, yeah. If you could go back in time and wrestle anyone that has passed away, who would that be?
Um, Chavo Guerrero, simply because Chavo took me under his wing, and we had a couple of matches, but they were already when he was older, and even even though Chavo would say, I can still cook," he was older. I would have, if there was any way possible to get him when I first came across, which I guess he might have been in his 30s, and and just go with him, just go. I think out of all the guys I wrestled with, at that time, Chavo was one of the more skilled guys, and I've been fortunate to I've met Hector Guerrero and Mondo, and I knew Eddie, and I've met Chavo Jr. and um, and I really do have a total respect for the Guerrero family. But if there's any way possible to go back in time, I guess it would be to have a match with Chavo in 10 minutes. Just to be able to show him that this is what I can do. I'm not that green kid that you wrestled with years ago that didn't know what the heck he was doing. I know a little bit now.
Yeah, it would be great to show them now what you can do from what you were starting out as when you were younger. So yeah.
Sure, exactly.
Who is or was your dream top opponent?
My dream. I don't know. I've never really looked at that type of stuff. I mean, like I said, I broke in at a time when I through the years I worked with a lot of guys. I worked with Shawn Michaels. I worked with like one of the best. I worked with Yokozuna. I worked with Papa Shango. I worked with the Mountie. I worked with Razor Ramon. I worked with, basically you name it. I've had a match with them. And whether their matches, whether I win or lose or whatever, that doesn't even matter. It's just being able to get in the ring with those guys and do stuff. So I mean, it's really hard. I mean, I really don't have anybody that a Tully Blanchard, I guess, would be a good one. I guess. Um, Other than that, man, I don't really have anybody that I would say, you, man, I wish I had a match with that guy because I've been with almost everybody.
Yep. You also have wrestled Eddie Guerrero too, which was pretty big.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we got called. I was working with WCW at the time, and we did a show, Wrestle War, something like that, in Phoenix, and the local Telemundo station or Azteca station, whatever, they wanted to have a Mexican wrestling match, a lucha match, and so they paid for it. So I contacted Eddie, and I contacted Conan, and then Conan contacted a couple other guys, and we contacted Eddie through Chavo, and we put together this tag team match in Phoenix, and it was it was good, but there were some guys in the back that didn't like it because it was a lucha match. It was a match today that you would see today. We were doing it. We did it in 1990, and back then wrestling was still like very old school type, and slow it down, kid, and that type of stuff, And lucha match isn't slowing down of anything. It's go 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 go. And so I remember when I went to the back, one of the first people that I saw was I believe it was Brian Pillman, and he just like, that was trash and blah, 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 and all this, and I was like, we just did what they asked us to. But then there are guys like Eddie, like Mike Graham and Dusty was there, and there are a couple other guys that were like, man, that was a good match, that was great, great job, great job, So that helped. I mean, that was good. But yeah, I mean, I caught Eddie when he was just getting ready to hit the United States. He was doing a lot of stuff in Mexico. He had, I believe, his partner Art Barr had just passed away. Um, so he wasn't really a name here in the United States. And even I mean, even though he was a Guerrero and stuff, um, nobody really cared. It was like, okay, guys, thanks a lot, good job, and that was really it. I mean, nothing really came out of that. It was until a couple, maybe 2 or 3 years later, I believe, and I believe it was started by Mike Tenay. I don't know the story or whatever, but I think that's what I heard, and he's the one that said, hey, let's do cruiserweight wrestling, let's have these guys, and then they started bringing in guys from Mexico and stuff, and one of the guys was Eddie, and Eddie stood out above everybody else and what have you. Um, but yeah, man, it was a fun match. It was even it was easier because I was familiar with the Guerrero family, and so I wasn't very well at that time. I think I had a few matches in Mexico already by that time, not a whole lot, so I wasn't very um, experienced in the lucha libre style of wrestling. I just knew do a few flips, some backflips or whatever, and just keep going. And that's what we did.
Yeah, and it's cool to
The
say
crowd, the
that you
crowd there
made.
loved it. The crowd loved it, but the guys in the back, not everybody warmed up to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to say that you made history too, because one of like you said, there was not a lot of matches back in the day. So yeah.
Right. I believe that might have been, maybe I might be wrong, but I think someone told me that was the first lucha match for WCW that they ever had. So I mean,
Wow.
yeah. So I mean, and I don't know if that was, I don't know how accurate that is or not. It sounds pretty legit, but I don't know for a fact if that's true or not.
Yeah. Who is someone you would like to wrestle that you have already wrestled before?
Brian Danielson. I had two matches with him down here in Texas when he was down here, and from day one, man, he just blew me away. Uh, unfortunately though, the way things were at the time, I beat him both times. So I can actually say, American Dragon's never beaten Rudy Boy González, but I'd like to fix that. And I mean, kind of exposes things because I don't think I deserve to have a win over Brian Danielson at all. I mean, he's a phenomenal guy, and I'm not going to lay down for him either. But I mean, I would love to get in the ring with him now as as opposed to when I had him at his first match. And I'd explain that to my students was, he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Whatever you want to do, man. Whatever you want to do. I don't care." And he almost killed me. Just like, I mean, I got the win, but I mean, it was kind of silly because I could barely breathe after the match, and here I am pinning him and stuff, and the referee counts to three, and I get up and I get out of the ring, go straight to the back, go into the alley of the back of the building, and I'm like, and he's barely breathing, and we did the same thing again at a show in San Antonio, and I just felt, just because the way things were set up at the time, that's what was called was me beating him. But I mean, I have no business beating that guy. And so, just out of respect and returning the favor, I would love to get in the ring with him and just do whatever, go 15, 20 minutes or whatever. This time he's not going to blow me up, and and just give him his respect.
Yeah. Now we got to tell AEW to book the match.
Uh,
Who would you number as your three top favorite opponents in your career of all time?
oh man. So I mean, I don't have a. I'm not going to put them in order, but Buddy Roberts is one, Larry Zabisco is one, and Buddy Roberts, Larry Zabisco, and a guy down here. His name was Dusty Wolf, and you know Larry Zabisco and Buddy Roberts. I learned a lot from those guys, um, and it was a pleasure being in the ring with them and doing whatever we did, and just the way they went about putting the match together. I learned so much from both guys. Um, and then Dusty Wolf is just Dusty's a local guy from here. Um, I've known him since my start, and we always had good matches. We always had without going into too much detail, we always had good matches. I always enjoyed them, and win, lose, or whatever the outcome was, I always walked out, you know, laughing about something or smiling about something because it was just they were just so easy to do.
Yeah. And it's also cool to see that Dusty's son is in Wrestling Now Dusty Wolf's Nick Wayne.
Is he?
Yep.
I know that.
Yeah, he's assigned to AEW. Also, Nick Wayne's mom is also in AEW as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you usually get along or become friends with most of your opponents?
No, I mean, in my position now, I'm a wrestling trainer. I'm a wrestling coach, so I know everybody. So we can be buddies and stuff and do podcasts and whatever. Um, but once we're booked in a match, I kind of like cut you off because I'm not goofing off. I'm not playing around. I'm not. Um, it's not fun and games. Um, it's to me, I take this a little bit serious, and so I'm not gonna sit there and say, "Hey, man, hope you do well," because I don't hope they do well. I don't. I want to beat them. And even though I'm older and stuff, there's still that fire. It's not as big as before. There's still something there, and I get asked all the time to do matches. Now I'm more selective. I'm not wrestling every weekend, or maybe I'll wrestle once a month for certain people. But when it comes to opponents and stuff, like I don't, I'm still the old school guy. You know, and I still handled that part of the business like it should be. Um, and maybe I'm not saying tomorrow after show then we're going to be buddies again, but maybe down the road we'll talk and have a couple of drinks or or whatever. Um, but I mean, I still take this. I still and guys can call it wrestling whatever it is. I still look at it as the way guys did back in the old days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you could make a Survivor Series match, including you with four wrestlers from any era that are still alive today, who would you choose as partners?
I would and I was talking about this the other day with somebody else. Was I would love to do a survivors type match with um, uh, the Santos Escobar. I knew his dad, and then the two boys, Angel Garza and the other kid. Good, and he, I've known all, I knew all their dads when they came to the United States. They came to work for Joe Blanchard. I drove them around. I'm impressed with all the boys. They're so good. They're so and they're doing so well. You know. Um, so I mean, if there could be some kind of Survivor Series type, what do they call it, fantasy booking, I would book myself with those guys and see what happens.
Yeah, that would be actually pretty great. Yeah, that would be cool. Would you rather be in a street fight or a death match?
I'll stay home. Neither one. I don't do those matches. I mean, I did one years ago, and I was just so out of it. I think those matches are so unnecessary unless there's a reason for it. But guys nowadays they just do them just for the heck of it. And so someone booked me on a show, and then when I get there, I see Rudy González against so and so death match. And I'm like, what am I mad at this? What am I mad at this guy about that I'm going to have a death match with him? And the promoter was like, just do it, man. Just there's an ambulance out there. There's some chairs. And I was like, so I just don't do those. I don't do those matches. I've never done them. I don't know what it's like to get taxed, in my elbows or on my arms or nothing like that. I've never been hit by a light tube. I've never gone through glass. Maybe I've taken a chair shot here and there. I've gone through a couple of tables, but I mean, some of the other stuff is just, I don't, I won't do them. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. Yeah. What about would you rather be in a blindfolded match, handcuffed to your opponent, or a dog collar?
I, I'd rather, I'd rather do a dog collar match. I mean, I've seen them done before, and I'd rather, I don't really see a whole lot of harm, in them. You got a piece of strap around your neck, and then there's a chain and the strap around the other guy's neck, and so I mean, you know, what could possibly happen? But I guess I'd
Yeah.
rather be in a dog collar match.
Mm-hmm. Is there any piece of merch that you have or had that's sold out pretty quickly?
T-shirts mainly. I mean, I don't really sell merch. Pictures, 8x10s I've had that and uh, I'm surprised when people buy them because I don't really uh, I don't really put myself over as a big wrestling star, but I've gone to places where I've taken 25 8x10s, and by the time the second, third match is up, I'm done. I'm out of them, and I'm like, what happened to them? You know, T-shirts like our TWA shirts that we have. I mean, I have a whole stack back there behind me somewhere back. Wait, what am I doing? Right there, back there. When we take those out, um, we sell out of them. I mean, we sell them pretty quick. That's mainly it. My girlfriend Micah, on the other hand, she's with Wow, and she, hand over fist, man, she's making her money on her merch, and I'm proud of her. She does really well. But when I don't, rare is the time, and it, I mean, I don't know, there has to be an eclipse like yesterday, something going on that, I'm selling stuff like that. But that doesn't happen very often with me.
Yeah. Is there any time a fan has seen you in public and got like super surprised and or excited?
It happens all the time, man. It mainly, we'll be at a Walmart or at a grocery store, and just doing our own thing, just shopping, and I'll hear down the aisle, Rudy, and I look, and there's some guy, and he'll come, oh my god, I can't believe it, Rudy Boy González, oh my god, and that's here in San Antonio, and I kind of laugh about it because it's like, calm down, dude, I'm not going nowhere, and my wife and my daughter, they're like, who is that, dad? And I'm like, I don't know. But I'm not going to insult them and say, who are you, dude? I just go along with it. One guy said, I saw you wrestle Hulk Hogan. I remember I saw you wrestle Hulk Hogan one time. And I've never wrestled Hulk Hogan. But I just let him go because there was something that triggered him. And he remembered me from back in the day and, brought back some kind of memory for him, and maybe he was wrong. I mean, he was wrong because, like I said, I've never wrestled Hulk Hogan before. But it brought him to a place in his life that, probably, a better time in his life. And so I just let him go. Man, I remember you wrestled. He did that leg drop on you, man. I thought you were gonna kick out and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, I almost had him, man. I almost had him. And then the guy like, oh man, well I know you're shopping, I know you're busy, but I'll talk to you later, man. I can't believe I met you. And again, I've never thought of myself as a wrestling superstar. Like I had lunch with one of my students this afternoon, and for whatever reason, he's looking me up on Google, and he's like, oh shoot, coach, I didn't know you did this. I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did this. I didn't know you did. And I'm like, yep, 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 yep. He goes, man, you've done a lot of stuff. And I'm like, I guess I have. I don't know. I just never thought of myself as a guy like that, and so it surprises me when people come up to me in public, and they're going nuts and stuff like that. It's just an odd feeling for me.
Yeah. I'm surprised your wife doesn't get recognized either since she's with WoW, Or does she sometimes?
Get what?
Hello?
You're breaking up there.
Oh,
You there?
did you hear that? Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
It's here and there and stuff. Um, Same thing. I mean, she handles it pretty well. I mean, she's on Wow TV, which comes on the CW here in San Antonio, and she's involved in a heavy little um, storyline there and what have you. They just had a deal this past weekend on TV. But I mean, I guess because I'm with her the majority of the time, a lot of the guys are. But I mean, she gets her fair share of recognition. Um, when she does her tapings in Los Angeles, I'll get a message from a fan. Hey, I just saw your wife wrestling, and they'll take pictures. They'll send me pictures and stuff. I don't think they're supposed to have pictures in at the when they're doing their tapings, but I'll get a picture and stuff, and I'll send it to her. And she's like, "How'd you get that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Some guy just sent it to me." Um, but she does well. I mean, again, we don't present ourselves like rock stars or anything like that. I mean, I've never seen myself as such, and she doesn't either. So, I mean, we're not like the Miz and Maurice or anything like that. We're not like Cody and his wife. We're just laid back and we enjoy the business and enjoy what we do, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Who is your favorite horror character and favorite horror movie if you have one?
Who is my what?
Favorite horror character and favorite horror movie.
For some reason, I can't hear what you're saying.
Is it like is my sound off?
It'll go out now. It's on, but then it'll go out and then it'll go back on again.
Oh. Um Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
No problem.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me right now?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So, who is your favorite horror character in horror movie?
I didn't hear what you said. What was that last question?
Here, can you hear me better now?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
All right, because I took off my headphones, so maybe that was better. All right, so who is your favorite horror character and favorite horror movie?
You broke up again. I don't know what you said.
Um,
For some reason, you're breaking up. My favorite horror movie. Um, Man, I never really watched horror movies when I was younger. I used to watch like the old Dracula movies. I guess my favorite Dracula movie was God. What was his name? It was the one with Frank. I can't think of his last name, but it was that was like the no, the last Dracula movie I watched was the Bram Stoker Dracula movie. That was really good. But I'm really not into horror movies. I'm really, I'm not really into that stuff.
favorite music.
I listen to everything. I listen to rock and roll. I like Kiss. I like the Beatles. I like Queen's Right. I like Ted Nugent. I like anything rock and roll. I like country. Toby Keith, Jason Aldean, Willie Nelson, George Strait, Brooks and Dunn, Luke Bryan. I don't really listen to rap a whole lot. I like the old, um, like the Temptations, that type of stuff. Um, those are the main ones, though. That I list. Those are and then on my radio, I have series. So I'm always it's either rock and roll, country, or old. I don't know what they call it, old school rhythm and blues. I don't know what it's called, um, or ESPN radio. I listen to sports all the time.
Yeah. Kiss is my favorite band too. If a movie was made about your career, who would you want to play you?
If there was a movie, who would play me?
Yeah.
Obviously Brad Pitt. I don't know. I don't know. Uh, Emilio Estevez, I guess. I don't know. Billy the Kid.
Yeah. I could see George Lopez.
You know, a lot of people have compared me to George Lopez for whatever reason. I like him. He was funny at one time. I just don't find him too funny anymore. I don't. Maybe I'm older, or maybe his material is just not the same. But I've always had people that have compared me to George Lopez. It's funny.
If you got to choose the stipulation for your match, what stipulation would you choose?
If I got to choose a stipulation for my match, it would just be um, like an old school stipulation. It's just no hair pulling, no eye poking, that type of stuff. I'm not really into the flips and dives and all that other whatever. You know, I enjoy having just simple matches, just telling a story with just that. Um, so yeah, that's what I would go with. You know, if I was given if I was given an opportunity to call a match with certain stipulations, that would be it. And maybe people would say that, well, what kind of stipulation is that? But I mean, it compared to today's wrestling, it's a heck of a deal. You know.
Yeah. Funniest thing, what has been the funniest thing a fan has said to you before?
Like I mentioned earlier, just guys that have come up and said they've seen me wrestle in matches against Hulk Hogan or Wahoo, man, matches that I've never even been in. But like I said, they could have swore that well I was in that match, and they tell me things that I did in that match, and like I said, it probably takes them back to a time, and maybe the opponent is blurred or something, but it probably takes them back to a time when they enjoyed wrestling and stuff. So I let them, you know. There was a time when years ago when I got carried out on a stretcher from the ring, and every now and then I'll run into someone that was there that night, and they'll always tell me how they're happy that I'm walking again, and they prayed for me and stuff like that, and that means a lot to me. Even though wrestling is what it is, I know where their heart was, and I know that I did. A job, a certain job, the right way to get that response. So I'm happy with that. I'm cool with that. And when we leave the conversation, I always have a smile on my face that I did something right. And and they see me walking around, they see me, in good health, so they feel like they did something to help me, and that's always a good feeling.
Yeah. What would you say has been a best fan compliment you've received, either at like a show or convention or somewhere?
Just having fans come up and after shows and just making a comment, something like, man, this match is okay, this match is okay, but your match was really good because I know you were pissed, and I'm doing the same thing everybody else is doing, except maybe a little bit better. and they saw that and they recognize it. And so whenever I get a compliment like that, that means a lot because I did something a little bit above and beyond than what everybody else did. I stood out.
Yeah, definitely. What wrestler has given you the best advice and or compliment?
So years ago, I picked up Randy Savage at the. I was only in the business for like maybe 3 or 4 months or something. I was still young. I picked up Randy Savage at the airport, and I don't remember. I don't remember the conversation. I just remember he said something like, "You're in the game as long as you're in the game." And when he said it, I kind of like, what's this guy smoking? Because I had no clue what he was on about. But now, years later, I understand. And I tell my own students, you're in the game as long as you're in the game. As long as you are in this deal, there's always that chance. There's always don't ever say that, I'm never gonna make it because you don't know that. You don't know that. I was in the wrestling business for 14 years and saw nothing, as a matter of fact, I actually quit the wrestling business. And that's when Sean called me to run his school for him. Um, I just happened to be, one day thinking about how much longer I was going to run the wrestling school, and then Brian Kendrick contacted me about, what if I was if I was interested in training at the performance center. So I mean, as long as you're in, and you're doing whatever you're doing right, there's always that chance. There's always. So that's what he meant was as long as you're in the game, you're in the game. As long as you are there, there's always that possibility that someone's going to call your name or pull your number or whatever, you know. And I've always kept that in my back pocket. I've never forgotten that.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. Do or did you like being or prefer being a heel or babyface more in wrestling?
Either one was fine because when I was a good guy in my beginnings, I didn't know anything, and so I just did whatever the other guy, which was the bad guy, the heel, whatever it was that he was calling in the ring. Um, and I'm and in all honesty, I'm not a people person. It's very hard for me to be the yeah, that type of guy. So being the good guy, I was totally out of my element because that just wasn't me, and people were cheering for me, and I'm like, yeah, very, when I do that, it's very fake. Um, I'm not saying I'm an evil person or anything like that, but my personality fits more of a bad guy, and so I'm able to um, do more stuff and expand more and do things in that mode because you know that's just who I am, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever. Being the bad guy, being the heel.
Yeah. Was there any time that you personally witnessed or this has happened to you where a crowd member has come out of the crowd and attacked you, and if you could tell any stories about that?
Can you repeat that?
What would you Was there any time in your career that like a crowd member came out of the crowd and like attacked you, or you've witnessed it before?
So yeah. So a deal with this group here in San Antonio called Evil Mothers, and they were doing a video for this TV show called Headbangers Ball, which was on MTV. And so our spot was we were supposed to do some wrestling matches, and then we're going to have this battle royal at the end. And when we do this battle royal, the band is supposed to play like a medley of songs. It's supposed to have been like 10 minutes or something. So we're supposed to do this battle royal for 10 minutes, and then at a certain cue, we start throwing guys out, and then at the end of the battle royal, I'm in the ring with by myself, and the singer jumps into the ring, and then he eliminates me. So somewhere in there, and there was no guardrails, there was no chairs, there was no. It was fans, rock and roll fans, drunk, leaning against the ring, slapping the mat, that type of stuff. So when guys got thrown out of the ring, it was basically like stage diving. They were going over the top rope and they're landing on fans, and the fans enjoyed it. They loved it. So somewhere in that battle royal, we're going back and forth, and someone says, "Rudy, look out!" And there was this guy trying to get into the ring, and he had a wrestling mask on, and he was trying to get into the ring, and so I turned and looked right at him, and he saw me looking at him, so he knew he wasn't sneaking in or anything, and he stuck his head through the ropes, and I just booted him, went completely backwards, and so now I can't see, and he was like, I'm sure there were X's on his eyes, and all his friends around him started laughing and stuff, and they were pulling him back, and he had his arm hooked around the rope, so I kicked his arm also, and then um, other than that, man, I mean, there's been times when fans have tried to get in the ring and stuff, and for the most part, I don't. That time, the guy was drunk. I had no idea what he was up to. Um, so I mean, I don't do anything new. I try and grab him, hold on to him, and just tell him, whisper in their ear, get out of the ring. You don't belong here. Get out. Get out. Get out. And they get out. I've seen guys that have just beat the heck out of them. And that works too. But I've never done that except for that one time.
Yeah. What has been your most favorite wrestling company you have wrestled for in your career?
By far, Southwest Championship Wrestling, which is where I started. Um, to this day, I've never heard a bad word mentioned about the promoter Joe Blanchard. Um, he didn't have to treat me the way he did. He treated me very well. He took care of me. I always went for him for advice. Um, man, I can't say enough. I mean, I worked for him from January of '92 until April or May of January of 1982 to May of 1985. So 3 years, and good times, man. Just the territory was hot. We had the sheep herders and Manny Fernandez and Al Perez. The Road Warriors came in on occasion. The Fabulous Ones came in on occasion. Chicky Star, Bobby Jagger, Dick Slater, Wahoo. I mean, we had stars all over the place. And then the green guys, the young guys like me that were starting, that was like just learning every match. We do our matches, and then it wasn't mandatory. We just knew we do the first match, and then we'd sit outside by the back doors and watch the rest of the matches, and that's how we learned. Um, and then Joe Blanchard sold the company in May to another guy, and it was like night and day. The other guy was just a complete nightmare. It was a nightmare. So I worked for him for a little while, and then I ended up quitting. And I did, a couple of like global a little bit, and the territories here, or the little outlaw shows here in Texas, and then I went to Mexico. But by far, and then later on, Joe Blanchard brought me into WCW, and that was great. I mean, I enjoyed working for them also. But I mean, if I had to choose one promotion, it was Southwest Wrestling. That was like any guy breaking into wrestling business. That was your job. That was like your dream job. Uh, that was like that. That's how guys should break in. It was through Southwest Wrestling.
Yeah. And Southwest still runs today, right?
No, they shut down in 1985.
Oh wow.
No, there might be another promotion, something like Southwestern Wrestling or something, but it's not. It's not ran by the Blanchard. It's not ran by Joe Blanchard or even Telly. It's not. It's a completely different deal.
Yeah, because why I mentioned that because I thought I seen something before about like that they were still running something, but yeah, it must have been like someone just betraying it or something like that.
Yeah.
Would you rather join DX, NWO, APA, or BWO?
DX. They just had more fun. They were like the cool group. They were they had all the catchphrases and stuff like that, and the cool gear and T-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and for NWO they had a lot of members, so I mean you a lot of the wrestlers would probably get lost in the mix of
Right, right.
things, and then for the other ones, I mean, yeah, DX was just one of the funner ones. Yeah,
Yeah, and they had like a small group, and everybody meant something. Like I said, NWO, they had new guys coming in every week, and it's like they had 20 guys, and you'd like, where these guys come from? Virgil, why is he in there? Um, why is Scott Norton in there? Why is just different guys and stuff? And it was just overdone.
yeah, and also they had like different versions of
Right,
NWO, so it was
right.
all like scrambling with it. So yeah. If you could have any band or singer perform your theme song, who would you want that to be?
Gene Simmons from Kiss.
Oh wow. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great. Were you around or did you see when you must know the wrestler Demon Dale Torberg when Kiss performed his theme song for WCW?
I saw that. I didn't really care for it, but I saw it.
Yeah. What is a least favorite wrestling move to have happen to you?
Um, least favorite. I don't know, man. I've never. I know one time. Scott Hall asked if he could do the Razor's Edge to me, and I wasn't really familiar with it. And he just said, "I pick you up by your shoulders, and I put you up over my head, and then I put you on the mat." And I saw. I mean, Scott Hall was a tall dude, and so once he got me up there, um, I was up there, and so that and then going backwards, it's so easy to fall on your head, and if the guy doesn't take care of you, and I mean, he took care of me though, and he put me down on the mat right, and but it's just a scary thing going backwards, and you don't know, you know, everyone's usually the same height, so you kind of have a pretty good idea on the timing of when you go up and when you come back down on the mat. And Scott was just a little bit taller, so the timing was a little bit different. And it was like, oh shit, or oh shoot, and you got to tuck in. I had my eyes. I remember I had my eyes closed, like I hope I don't die, But that's a little unnerving to be falling backwards like that.
Yeah, because you never know. They could throw you like too far to like in on your neck. You so yeah, worrying about that. Yeah.
Sure, exactly.
What would you
Sure.
say? What would you say has been the hardest move you personally have tried to do to an opponent before?
The hardest move. I would still go with the Razor's Edge. It was just, it's just an awkward for me anyway. It's just an awkward move. You're up in the air and you're falling backwards, and you really can't control yourself because the guy has you by the arms, and So when you land the majority on the upper part of your back, you're not falling dangerously. It's just a different move, you know.
Yep. If you could take any signature move from any other wrestler to do it yourself, what move would that be?
Who would it be? Um, I don't know. I've taken the super kick from Sean. I did jobs for a long time for WWE and for other promotions also. And I took a lot of guys, pile drivers and clotheslines and razor's edges and bonsai drops and I mean, so I'm pretty much accustomed to whatever. So I really can't say, this is good. I'd rather do this one than that. I mean, as long as no one kills me, I'm fine with it.
Hmm. Was there any time in your wrestling career you thought that was like a horrifying moment in your career that you thought could have almost ended your career badly or something?
No, never. I mean, honestly, never. I've always taken the right precautions. I've always taken care of myself and my opponent. Um, I've never put myself at at in danger of anything. I, just never been. That's never been part of my deal. I've always tried to work smart and not come out, or preoccupy myself with, man, I hope I don't kill myself in this move or something. I've always taken care of myself.
Yep. What usually got you hyped up for a match that you were going to be in?
Just being in the match, man. I just talked about this last night with my students. Every match, man. My first match, I shouldn't have even been there. The last match I have, I shouldn't have even been there. Every match I've always seen as just an opportunity, just a privilege. The matches I talked about with Larry Zabisco and Buddy Roberts, I mean, blessed. Um, I shouldn't be in this wrestling business, but I am, and so I've never taken any match for granted. I've never again, like I said earlier, I've never looked at myself as some kind of superstar guy. I've enjoyed every opportunity. Every opportunity. When guys call me today, a promoter just messaged me yet Sunday if I'm available for a certain date, and I had to tell him no because I'm my time is. I feel like my wrestling time is over with. But just for him to think of me and calling me meant a lot to me, and it's been that way since day one. Just for those guys to mention me and think of bringing me into a match because somebody no showed meant a lot. As the years have gone by, I realized they didn't have to do that. They could have had somebody wrestle twice, but somebody thought enough of me to put me in a match and give me an opportunity. So every match, man, and I'm talking since 1982, and I think I've counted like 2,500 matches or something, or 3,000, something like that. Um, always felt blessed to be able to be able to wrestle and go out there and have fun. I've never taken any match too seriously. I take them serious enough to where I want them to look a certain way, but not too serious where um, I'm gonna if you make a mistake, I'm gonna kill you. Nothing like that. I've always
Yeah.
enjoyed my matches. I've always enjoyed what I do. I always have.
Yep. I mean, you're there to also have fun, what you're doing in the ring. So you want to
Sure.
make what you're doing fun as well as competitive.
Exactly.
What would you say is your favorite thing to do after all your matches?
My favorite thing to do after a match is to sit down and relax, and then in my head go over what I could have done differently, what could I have done better, what could I have not done, what should I eliminate next time, how did I handle myself in this situation, and then talking over that match with my opponent, and always trying to be better, always trying to find a way to. And as you get older, like me, as you get older, trying to find a way to be better becomes a little bit harder and harder because you're fighting against father time and you're a little slower the next time, and you get a different creak here and there, a little twitch here and there, that you didn't have before. So again, my favorite thing is just after the matches, just analyze them, scrutinize them, and trying to figure out what could have been done differently and what could have been done better.
Yeah. What has been your most favorite venue you've got to wrestle at in your career?
My favorite.
Yeah.
So here in San Antonio, we had a place called Hemisphere Arena, and that's where the Spurs played at. And that was like the place to wrestle at. That was here in Texas. That was the place. A lot of people say the Sportatorium in Dallas, but for us down here in San Antonio, it was the Hemisphere Arena. And then the place that we did our TV show was called the Junction, and that was another favorite. I mean, that's like now it's an old antique store, but every now and then I'll walk in there and that's home. That's it doesn't look anything like it did before, but that's still home to me. Um, Other than that, man, after a while, the venues start looking the same. The bingo halls look like the arenas look like the bingo halls. You know, um, but those places have stood out, the most.
For sure. Yeah. Would you say there has been any time you have accidentally broke out of your wrestling persona in your wrestling career?
Um, no, I was always taught, from bell to bell, you are this person, and you're doing this job, and that's it. Um, I've seen stuff where kids are crying for whatever reason, and in the back of my head, it's like, maybe ease up a little bit, but that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm here for, to piss off people, to upset people. So if I'm playing to heal, so I just crank it up. You know, um, that's just the way I was taught years ago.
Yeah. Was there ever any time in your career you've ever gotten like embarrassed due to like a mistake or anything of that sort?
Frustrated. I mean, I happened twice. I where I was doing a match and the other guy wasn't you know cooperating, so I just walked out. You know, and then we go to the back and the guy's like, "Why'd you leave?" And I'm like, "Dude, if we're not going to work together, then I've got nothing to do with this match." That was one time. Another time led to an actual fight in the dressing room. Um, but I mean, embarrassed or anything. I mean, that's just part of the you know things happen. Um, in a match, and you just got to continue going. But on, like I said, on my end, I mean, there's been two occasions where I was just in the middle of the match. I'm done. And I walked out. And that's frustration.
Yeah.
Is it the thing to do? No, but that's what I did. And am I proud of it? Not at all. But that's what I did, and you learn from it.
Yeah. And maybe the opponents learn from it too.
Exactly, exactly.
What has been the most scariest slash most dangerous incident in your wrestling career?
Um, so it didn't happen to me; it happened to somebody else. But me and three other guys went to Dallas to do a show for Chris Adams, and so me and another one guy drove in one car, and the other two guys drove in another car. And after wrestling show, these guys invited us to a bar where the wrestlers drank for free. And so we went there and we drank, we got drunk, and then we drove back home, which is like a 4 hour drive, 3 hour drive from Fort Worth to San Antonio. And somewhere in there, right when we got out of Fort Worth, the guy that the guys in the other car, they crashed and their truck caught on fire.
Hmm.
And so one of the guys caught on fire. And man, talk about sobering up really quick, and getting straight really quick. And he's still in bad. He's still alive. He's in bad shape still. He recovered, but that kind of like put me on the don't drink and drive deal for a long time. But me, I mean, I've never been in a. I've had guys like I carry the ring wherever we our shows. I'm the one that carries the ring, and I've never had any major accidents or anything like that. Another guy that carried not for us but for another company carried the ring, and he got hit head on by another car, and the ring trailer went right through his pickup truck and
Oh,
messed him up
jeez.
pretty bad. And so when I drive the trailer, when I in my truck, I try and I'm either by myself or if I have my wife and my daughter with me or anybody else, I just drive very slow, very cautious. I don't try and speed. I don't try and people don't realize that ring is in trailer is heavy as heck, and if it runs into your truck, you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, for sure. What has been the worst you've gotten injured in a match?
Um, I took a clothesline from a guy, and I thought I was going to be cool, and I did the corkscrew little rikishi flip bump, whatever you want to call it. Um, Except I was on the apron of the ring, on the outside of the ring. So when the guy clotheslined me, and I knew it was going to land this way, I did the flip, whatever, and I landed on the concrete. And I was hoping to land on my back, and instead I landed a little bit onto my side, and my hip hit the floor. And I never went to go see a doctor, but for 3 4 weeks, I still wrestled. But for 3 4 weeks, man, my hip was in pain. I thought I broke it. I thought something was cracked or something. But I was able to walk around. I still wrestled, so it couldn't have been that bad. But that's been like the most serious. I never saw a doctor about it, and in time it just went away.
Yeah. What would you say has been the worst pain you have caused to an opponent before?
I don't know. I mean, I've tried to be safe with all my opponents. I don't take any pride. I don't take any pleasure in hurting somebody or knowing I hurt somebody or attempting to hurt somebody. Um, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hope nobody, and if I have, I don't know about it.
Mm. Have you ever wrestled or done anything in Wisconsin before?
In the state of Wisconsin,
Yeah.
no, never been there.
If back in the day you got told you couldn't medically wrestle for the rest of your life, what would you do?
I wouldn't wrestle. I mean, I wouldn't. It says again. I have these conversations with my students. If somebody told me right now it's done, can't wrestle no more, I'd be good with it. Did I reach all my goals? I didn't come in with any goals. Um, Could I do more? Trying. But if I haven't done more than what I've done already, I more than likely I'm probably not going to do much more anyway. So I mean, I'm totally prepared for that. I mean, it's again, I wasn't supposed to be in this business, so every day, every minute, moment, every match, every wrestling transaction, every I'm happy with it because this wasn't supposed to happen to me. This wasn't supposed to I wasn't supposed to be part of this. Somebody found it to be a good idea to put me in, and I've always been grateful for that. And I've never taken any of that for granted.
Yeah. What would you say has been the longest you've had to stay out of action for wrestling?
Um, a month, maybe a couple months or so. I mean, and that's because I chose to, not really wrestle. I mean, there was a time when my son was playing little league football, so I took August to December off because of football season. Um, I've never had to take time off for wrestling. I mean, from being injured because I've never been injured like that. Um, any time off I've taken off is because I chose to take time off. Um, that's just how it's always been.
Yeah. What are some of the wrestling championships and achievements you have won so far in your career?
So I've never really been a guy to pursue belts and stuff like that. But over the years, I was the Texas Junior Heavyweight Champion for a promotion back in the late '80s, early '90s. Um, for Shawn Michaels promotion, I was the tag team TWA Texas Wrestling Alliance tag team champions two or three times, and then the television champion two or three times, and then that's been it. I've never really had any belts. I've never pursued. I've never tried to politic my way into title matches or anything like that. Um, and simply because I mean it's politics. So like a few years, I just talked to somebody about this also the other day. A few years ago, I was given an opportunity to wrestle Tokyo Kahagas for the NWA North American title, or maybe he was the world champion. Um, I don't remember. It's one of those belts. And the back line, the backstory, whatever you want to call it, was the office guys, the guys that were running NWA, were so worried that I was going to take the belt, that I was going to pin this guy and take the belt from and who knows what I was going to do with it. And nothing but respect for Tokyo Kahagas. We had a competitive match. Never crossed my mind to not do business. But it was just funny how that and when someone else asked me about it, I was like, this is why I don't really care about that stuff because of all the BS that's involved in being title matches and being the champion and whatever comes with it. I'm just not into that stuff. Just not into it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you are worthy enough to be part of like a wrestling hall of fame, like indie hall of fame or something?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say it hasn't crossed my mind. Of course it has, but that's for other people to decide. You know, I know there's an independent wrestling hall of fame, and I know people that have been put in it. Um, and I envy them. Um, but again, that falls into the politics and stuff and whatever, and I'm just not part of that. Um, so somebody put me in a promotion at a Hall of Fame, and I'm in that one. I think it's IHWA or something like that. I don't know. So they're out of north of Texas. But I mean, am I worthy? I don't know. It's not for me to decide. That's for somebody else to decide.
Yeah, I feel like you're worthy enough to be part of a Hall of Fame. I mean, you've
Well, thank
did
you.
you've done great stuff in the business, and you know,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
who are five wrestlers you would personally put into the WWE Hall of Fame that you think that are not in there yet that you think deserve it?
Oh man, Brian Danielson's number one. Um, Kurt Hennig. I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame or not, but I'd put him in. All right, Kurt Hennig. Um, Adrian Adonis. I'm not sure if he's in the Hall of Fame or not.
No, he's
Uh,
not.
Paul Orndorff, I think would be it would be a good is a good choice. Um, Ernie Ladd, I don't know if he's in or not, but Ernie Ladd would be one. And man, I don't know. Triple H, well, he's already in it though. Um, well, that's a good one. Who would that fifth guy be? I don't know. I think I named four. Boy, Bray Wyatt. He's not in it yet. I mean, he will be, I'm sure, but he's not in it yet.
Yeah, he definitely deserves to be in there. Yeah, I definitely see him being in the Hall of Fame next year for sure.
Sure, yeah.
What are four words you would describe your wrestling persona?
Rude, persistent, um, legitimate, um, and attention grabbing. I don't know if that's two words or one word.
It's two words, but I mean, we'll let it slide, you know? Yeah.
Let it slide.
Yeah. And Rude, is that how you kind of got your name, like Rudy Boy, like Rude Boy?
Well, Rudy is my real name, and so I mean, for a while there, I was called Rude Boy, and then I guess there was another Rude Boy in the Northeast, and he got into some legal trouble, and so I kind of like backed away from that. So, but I mean, people still call me, the Rude One, or in Mexico, the heel is called a Rudo. So I have guys that call me a Rudo also. So, but Rudy's my real name though.
What are three things that annoy you the most in wrestling?
Guys that's an easy one. Guys that put out spoilers. Um, Guys, that's one. Number two would be some of our very own, guys that are wrestlers that know how to conduct themselves, but instead will. I was brought up in the if you think you can do better, then go do better. So when I see guys like even after this past WrestleMania, which has been called one of the greatest WrestleMania of all time, and for a lot of reasons I believe that. Um, there's still guys that are like, this wasn't done right, that wasn't done right, this guy shouldn't have won, this guy should have done this, this guy. It's like, dude, if you think you can do better, then go do better then. Instead, there's guys that are wrestling for 20, 30 people, on a Saturday afternoon, and they can't even run their own promotion, but they're trying to run this $1 billion, whatever you want to call it, that just ran 2 nights three events, two nights, four events: Hall of Fame, NXT, Wrestling Mania One, and WrestleMania Two nights. Four events in 2 days, and they drew hundreds of thousands of people. But you're gonna tell the world how they did everything wrong. Um, so spoilers and guys that just think they know everything, and then and I was gonna post this on my Facebook, but like Bailey came out when she did the scrum after night two. She had a T-shirt of a girl named Jada Stone,
Oh yeah.
and I met her. She was in OVW, and I trained with her for a little bit when I was up there. And good girl, works hard. And my point is, how can a girl how can an individual with Bailey status? She's at the top of the world. She just won the women's world championship. How can she, at her status, reach down and recognize a girl in the indies, but yet guys and girls in the indies will do whatever they can to bury each other, and to try and hold each other down and to try and diss each other and try and and that, to me, that's a huge problem on the independents, is guys just trying to bury each other, instead of trying to push each other up, and I was involved in that for a while, also back in a while back. And then I started seeing how stupid that is, and how I want to see everybody do well. I want to see everybody succeed. I want to see everybody. I have 12 students in my school. I want to see all of them work for WWE at one point. I want to see all of them with developmental contracts. Unfortunately, that can't happen, but I want to see it happen. um just the independence, in my opinion, is the lifeline to the big leagues of wrestling, the WWEs, the AEWs, New Japans, the even the golf, what are the Game Changer wrestling guys? They're starting to make some noise. I mean, we should, as promoters and trainers and the whole nine yards, we should be working at trying to elevate our talent to get those opportunities, instead of trying to like bury them, instead of trying to like screw them around or whatever. That's just that's just a those are my pet peeves. Um, but whether it's going to go away or not, I completely doubt it. So in my little world here, I try and do what I can to help guys out.
Yeah. What are three things you like the most about wrestling?
Repeat that.
What are three things that you like the most about wrestling?
Of wrestling,
Yeah,
the
like.
direction that it's going in right now. Um, it's going in a great direction. Um, the the numbers are there. The numbers, I mean, but it's only you and guys can say the more people are watching wrestling, and that's true. WWE wrestling, but we have work to do on the independents. And yes, there are some guys out there that are working with each other, working to elevate each other. Um, an industry wide thing. Um, the talent today is bigger, better, strong. Well, I'm not gonna say bigger. There's a lot of smaller guys, but better, stronger, better shaped than when I broke in. Um, the guys back in the day, they were in great shape, but there was a lot of heavy guys. Um, they were tough son of a guns, but they just didn't look the part. Which is what I tell guys: what does a wrestler really look like? But today, I mean, you see a lot of guys that are in shape, that are bodybuilder types, that are out there trying to do the deal. Um, there's more ways to Number three, there's more ways to um, expose yourself, through social media. There's different platforms and stuff like that that we didn't have back in the day. Back then, if I wanted to send you, if you were a promoter, I wanted to send you my information, I had to take some pictures, record some matches off the TV, put it on a cassette tape, whatever, for your VCR, send it to you, and then wait a couple of weeks if you got it, and then you send me a letter back, or you send me a phone call that you got you got my package. Now I can send you something email, and it's done, in a minute. Um, so the progress that we made through social media and stuff is a good thing also.
Yeah. It's crazy how that type of stuff evolved from way back then. If you are upset or anxious during or before a match, what do you do to help yourself calm down?
Um, that's hard for me to answer. I don't get upset. I don't think I've been upset. Even when I was stuck in at the last minute, I wasn't upset. I just like the first thing that I thought of was somebody made a decision to put me in this match. They trust me, so I got to go out there and do my thing, whatever it is I'm supposed to do. Um, I block out everything. I've been in matches where um, I've gotten some bad news or whatever, but I blocked that out. Um, whatever distractions that are going on, I block them out and just focus on the match that I have to do at that time. It's not fair for the fans that have paid 10, 15, $20, whatever they pay, to see a guy that's not even there, that's not even focused on his job. That's not fair to them. So it's like if you go to a restaurant and you go to a high end restaurant and expecting this great service, and the waitress just broke up with her boyfriend, and she's, you know, can I help you? What do you want? Water. Just giving you attitude. You don't deserve that. That's not whatever her problems are. That's not your problem. That's her issue. And so same thing with here. I mean, if I have some issues going on, I just put them off to the side and just go out there and do my job, and then worry about whatever those issues are after the show. I take in the shows, I take in the moments, I take in the matches, I take in everything, the whole 9 yards. I take it all in and not worry about nothing. But once I leave the building, now I got bills to pay, rents behind, then all the issues come back. But from the time I get to the building to the time I leave, there's nothing else going on in my world except for wrestling.
Yeah. If you could wrestle anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Mexico. I wrestled there for 3 years, enjoyed it. It's a different culture. The people treat you differently. Had a great time. I got paid well. Um, if I had the opportunity, I'd go back in a heartbeat, easily.
Yeah. So, if you definitely got asked now to go wrestle in Mexico, you would.
Let's go.
What has been the best fan art you have received in your wrestling career?
Um, a guy sent me a painting of me,
Wow.
and yeah, and blew me away. Just um, blew me away. I've never looked at myself as some superstar kind of guy or some big celebrity or anything like that. So when I get things like that, I just take a step back and take a deep breath, because I just don't see it. You know,
Yeah. Which wrestler would you say has like the best wrestling gear in your opinion?
the best wrestling what
Wrestling gear.
gear. Um, Man, you know what? You know what? Cody came out to the ring the other day with a mask on. That looked pretty sharp. Um, he always has good looking outfits. Um, Bianca Belair has good looking outfits. Um, those are the two that stand out the most. A lot of guys just they go the cheap route, you know, and that's nothing wrong with that. I don't, you know, but to me, you want to look, you know, from your physique to your outfits to where are going to remember you and you're going to stand out. And so, I mean, on the independents, man, I mean, I don't know. Everyone's kind of like, you know, they get this their gear and you know it's not, nothing really stands out, you know, that much.
Yeah. What is a number one top unforgettable moment in your wrestling career that you'll never forget?
Um, I saw a guy in Mexico do a backflip and he landed right on his head. Broke. I'm sure. I don't know what happened. I don't. He landed right on his head, and his opponent, he was my partner, covered him, pinned him, and then we got out of the ring and we're in the back in the dressing room, and I asked my partner what happened, and the guy did what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to do a moonsault or something, but he slipped, I think. And as we're talking, they carry him um, in front of the dressing room door um, on I think it was a table, and don't know what happened to him. It's pretty scary.
Still to this day, you don't have no idea?
No clue.
Oh,
No
wow.
idea.
What does or did your meal prep look like on a day of a wrestling show?
My meal prep.
Yeah.
Um, um, I don't know. Whatever was available to eat before, McDonald's or Golden Corral or whatever. I mean, there wasn't anything. I didn't have any kind of ritual. I always made sure I had water with me, or or a monster drink of energy drink of some type. But food, I mean, I didn't really have any kind of, I gotta have three, you know, chicken breasts before each match or nothing like that. It's we were able to stop at a McDonald's after a long trip, then great. If we had to stop somewhere to eat afterwards, then that's fine too. I mean, I didn't have any kind of specific meal prep or anything like that.
Yeah. What is or was like your go-to beverage most of the time to help keep you energized for a wrestling event?
Water, and then when energy drinks came around, then Red Bull, and then I switched over to Monster, and then for a while there I was taking uh I forgot what it's called, but I had a bad effect to it. It started getting blurred vision, and not C4, it was Blast, or yeah, something like that. And I had a couple of days of drinking that, and I started getting blurry vision, and I quit drinking them. So, and then because of the physical and stuff I went through with WWE, I kind of cut back on on energy drinks, and so water. You know, um, I'll have coffee. You know, black. That's about it, really.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite current and old wrestlers theme song from wrestling history?
I've always liked, Chris Benoit's music, and I like Chris Jericho's Judas, and I like uh, Cody's Cody's music. I mean, every time he comes on the pay per views, and it goes through the whole deal, and then all of a sudden, whoa,
Yeah.
uh, that's now fans are participating in guys' music, which they never did before, and that's a cool thing.
Yeah, that's great. Like Seth Rollins and like you
Yep.
said, Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, and probably others. Yeah, it's pretty cool. What would you say is your least favorite theme song ever from wrestling history?
Man, I don't know. I mean, everyone's music has some kind of connection to their personas and stuff. So I mean, I like a lot of the guys that are out there performing today. Um, I really can't say whose music I don't like. I mean, I don't know. That's a hard one to it's a hard one to answer.
Yeah. If you could go back and revisit any year of your wrestling career, what year would that be and why?
I would I would go back to my first few years, 1982 to 85, because my first few years, and that was really the most fun I've had because I had no idea what I was into. Every day was a learning experience. I had no clue what I was getting into, and I had no clue what the next day brought. I was just literally I was winging it, and but I didn't know. I did know. Well, I didn't know this either. I figured if I just put the work in, somebody would see it and you know recognize, and that's what I did. And then if I could fast forward to 99 to 2001 when I ran Sean's school for him, same thing. It was a lot of fun every day. I mean, I had guys that were learning, they were green, they were hungry, we were working with the best, in my opinion, the best in ring performer ever. Um, and whatever you may have seen of Shawn Michaels on TV is complete opposite in real life. Yes, we bumped heads, and that was the cool part was he never once said like I'm Shawn Michaels and I've been all over the world and you haven't, nothing like that. Sean never ever pulled any kind of rank on me. We had disagreements and we talked about them and we bumped heads and then we came to solutions. Like any working relationship should. Um, and we learned. We both learned from. I mean, I learned a ton working just watching him, and I had a complete new respect for him. And I guess the feeling was mutual because I'm not going to lie to nobody. The reason why I'm able to go to the performance, I mean, cut and dry, it's uh, nobody else. And I don't think he would, I don't think he would refer me coming over there just for the heck of it. Respected what I did for him. I never took a day off. Um, every day was on, and it was fun. Every day was fun. So from 82 to 85, like if I could redo that again, I'd be more than happy to go back to that time. Even though I was suffering and I was starving and I was struggling, that's fine. And then fast forward 99 to 2001 during Sean's wrestling school days, I'd do that again in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Yeah. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something motivational towards being a wrestler, what would that be?
Just stay at it. Just stay at it. No matter. There are some times when I was like, why am I doing this? And there was no one to really help me with that answer because nobody knew why I was doing it because I didn't even know why I was doing this. Um, so I just kept moving, just kept going forward. But I wish there was somebody that would have been there to say, keep going forward, keep working at it, keep working at it, keep working at it. And I'm sure in their own ways, there were guys that were around me that did tell me that. I just didn't catch on to it till later.
Yeah. If you came with a warning label, what would it say?
If I came with a warning label, um, not suited for immature audiences. Just because I don't have a filter. If something's not right, I'm gonna tell you it's not right. And some younger people can't deal with that. You're a hater, or you're rude, or you know, but you need the truth sometimes. You need someone to be honest with you and just, if you suck, you suck. That's all there is to it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Just work harder. Um, and that's where I come from. But I don't have a feeling. I don't have a filter that where I'm going to say, hey, Mike, maybe you should try a little bit harder. No, I'm just going to tell you, hey man, you suck. If you can't do this, then get the heck out of here. And that should tell the
Yeah.
guy, well, I better start working harder. I mean, nobody candy coated anything for me. You know, no, I said nobody ever physically abused me because they didn't. But man, I sure got my butt chewed out many times because I made a mistake or something, and no one said, "Hey, man, don't worry about it. Try harder next time." No, man, I got chewed out. Simple as that. You know, and but it made me know that whatever I'm doing with this wrestling stuff, there are people that take this stuff very seriously, and it's a living, it's a job, and and if I don't see it that way, I can leave. And so that's where my attitude, I guess you can say, comes from. My view on this wrestling business, that's where it comes from, is just the way things I was told when I was younger.
Yeah. What is the first thing you think about doing to your opponent as the match starts?
Usually I'm wrestling with a younger guy. So the first thing I try and do is just make him calm down, just get him to settle down and not be so anxious, not be so, because one, no, again, I've never thought of myself as some big superstar guy, but there are some guys that I get in the ring with, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm wrestling with Rudy González. Oh my god, I'm just like you, dude. I'm just like." And I tell my students, I made the same mistakes they made. It's not, I'm just like everybody else. So the first thing I try and do is just get them to settle down, just get them to relax and enjoy the ride, man. Enjoy the match. You know.
Yeah. What are some things you are still striving to achieve in wrestling that you have not achieved yet?
I don't know. I've never really put goals in front of me because I don't know what's out there. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where all this is leading me to. So I just take it one day at a time. I enjoy what I do. I didn't expect for someone to call me and say, "Hey, you know, WWE wants to know if you want to be a guest trainer at the performance. I never expected that in the world, at all. But I got that call. I've been there 3 times, 4 times. I expected to go. I didn't expect to go once. I've been there 4 times. So I just play it one day at a time. Just what haven't I done? I've never done a WrestleMania. I don't think I will either. So why would I put that on my list? I just take it one day at a time, man. And whatever I'm given, I'm grateful for it. I'm happy. And what's next?
Yeah. Talking about that again, the Performance Center, when was the last time that you actually stepped foot in there and did stuff?
The end of February of 2023. So about a little more than a year ago.
Wow. Not that long ago, actually.
Yeah.
If you could have an entrance with any animal, what animal would that be?
A bull. Texas Longhorn. Texas Longhorn. Huge horns sticking out the side and just riding out the rope around the neck, just riding it out there. And
yeah, that'd be great. What is your favorite wrestling quote?
As long as you're in the game, you're in the game. From Randy Savage. I like I said, that's in my back pocket. I live by that every day.
Yeah. If you could come up with your own quote, or if you already have one, what would it be?
My quote is, it doesn't matter what happens. What matters is what you do when it happens. So, I mean, anything can happen in your life, and you can either like say, "Oh, poor me," or you can get back up on your feet and keep moving forward. It's up to you.
Yeah. If you could manage any wrestler right now, who would you want to manage?
I would manage Brian Danielson and do the old Shawn Michaels, Jose Lothario thing, like they did years ago, and just be in his corner.
Yeah. Somebody wanted me to ask you, what are your thoughts on Jose Lothario, and have you ever ran into him or any of that?
So, like years ago, me and Jose, years ago when Sean called me to run his school, I had actually quit the wrestling business. It's funny because I did a show for Jose of all people on a Saturday, and I didn't get paid what I thought I should have gotten paid. So I gave him my envelope, gave it back to him, and said I quit. He kind of laughed at me because he knew me and he knew that I wasn't going to just quit. I was going to come back. But I knew that's what he was, and because he laughed, because I knew why he was laughing, I was determined to not come back. So that was a Saturday. So Sunday I rested. Monday I went to go look for a job, and I got a job at a warehouse. I got called Tuesday to go take a drug test. So Tuesday afternoon I took a drug test, and so Wednesday I'm waiting for my results. Wednesday Sean calls me and he asked me to help him run the school. And so we talked about it, whatever. And then we met again Friday. And so we talked Wednesday. And then Thursday, I got my drug test results. I passed. I was hired. And so I was going to start working at a warehouse. And I was going to make $12 an hour or something crazy like that. And I was going to have a weekly check and benefits and all the stuff that wrestling didn't provide. And so I met with him Friday and we talked about the school, and I said, all right, let's see what happens. He wasn't planning on starting the school until this This was November of 1998. He wasn't going to start the school until April of 99. And he was going to have back surgery. So in the meantime, I was working at the warehouse and I was making good money. So when we started wrestling school, which is now in April, I had saved up money. We had bought a house. Everything was good. And so Sean called me and says, we're going to have a meeting at the gym tomorrow after, tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. So I show up at the gym and Jose Lothario's there. And I'm like, man. But I wasn't there for Jose. I was there to work for Sean. So, but during that month, I mean, we worked together. I have nothing but respect for Jose Lothario. Jose Lothario was like one of the top Hispanic baby faces at that time, during his time in the 80s and 70s and stuff. So I had respect for Jose Lothario for his work that he did while he wrestled. But as a promoter and stuff like that, I really didn't have too much love for him. He screwed money. He did the typical promoter stuff. So I walked out on him. But now we're working together as trainers. So I had to like swallow my pride and work with him. But like I said, him and Sean had a fallout after about a month or so. And so it was me and another guy, Ken Johnson, that ran the school, and then Ken left because him and Jose were buddies. So Ken ended up leaving, and then it was just me running the school,
Mm.
and I ran the school the rest of the time by myself. Um, Jose passed away a few years ago, and I went to the funeral, and I mean, Jose was Jose, man. He has his place in pro wrestling. Dusty Rhodes thought the world of him. Who am I to try and bash him or knock him? I didn't get along with him, and that was my problem. That was my business. So, um, and he had his ways about him, and I'm sure he had reason to be the way he was, and that's fine. That's just wrestling. But from a professional standpoint, I had nothing but respect for him.
Yeah, Jose was a great talent in the ring. If there is anything you would or could have changed about your wrestling style, what would that be?
Um, no, I enjoyed the path that I took. Um, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. I know that there's like there maybe one thing was that maybe I would not be so gullible in listening to people that didn't have my best interest. Um, and I say that because I had a couple of people that were like, "Don't do this, don't do that, don't work with this guy, don't work." And I didn't because I trusted these people. And then later on, as time went by, I realized that was not a good thing. I should have worked with these guys. I showed, for example, someone told me years ago that Jerry Jarrett wasn't a good promoter to work for, and don't work for him. He's bad news, bad news. But yet, a lot of other guys that I knew were working for him. But for some reason, I was always told, "Don't do it, don't do it." So I didn't. Um, then a few years ago, I saw him at a show, and I introduced myself. Hey, Mr. Jarrett, my name's Rudy Gonzalez. Worked for Joe Blanchard, and blah 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 blah. He said, "Oh yeah, I know who you are. I know who you are." And we talked for a while, and he told me, he goes, "Man, you should have reached out, Rudy." He goes, "I could have used you. I could have used you. I had Billy Joe Travis. I had these guys. I probably could have I probably could have found a spot for you." And I'm like, man, maybe I should have went to. And I knew a lot of guys that worked for for the Jarretts. One of the guys that broke me in, his name was Juan Reynoso. He went to go work for the Jarretts as Taras Bulba. I mean, I knew a lot of guys that went over there, and I didn't because someone said, and I listened to him, and I shouldn't have. Other than that, man, I mean, I'm happy with the path that I took, the lessons that I learned, the beatings that that I went through, because it made me a smarter person, a stronger person. Um, so I'm happy with the way things have turned out.
Yeah. If you could dump any type of food and beverage on your opponent, what food and beverage would that be?
Oh man, spaghetti and water. I guess I don't know what is spaghetti and water. I guess I don't know. That sounds pretty nasty.
Yeah. Would you rather wrestle Rick or Scott Steiner or both?
I wrestled them before in a tag match, um, and they're both tough guys. Um, Either one is fine. Either one, I'm comfortable with either one of them.
Yeah. What has been the worst weapon you've got beat slash hit with in a match?
A chair. I don't get into those matches, so I mean the most, I think somebody hit me one time with a kendo stick, but a chair, you know.
Yeah. What about who would you put in your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Flair, Thez, uh, Gagne, and Vince Senior. You know what? I would put Vince Junior.
Oh,
Simply because he changed the wrestling world. He changed the wrestling world.
yeah. That's a great Mount Rushmore. Who would you consider as like a brother and sister in wrestling?
A brother I considered, Brian Kendrick, Paul London, guys that I trained and still hold a relationship with to this day. Another guy, he passed away a couple of months ago. His name is Francisco Ciazzo. Anytime I had a question, whatever I couldn't figure out, I'd call him. Um, and we'd figure out a solution. Les Thatcher, same thing. Tom Pritchard, same thing. Um, as it is anyway, I mean, we're all in this, and we all look at each other as brothers and that type. Um, but guys that I really, if I have a question or I have a dilemma, or I'll call one of those guys, you know, and see what we can figure out.
Yeah. If you had one last retirement match now in your career, who would you want that to be against?
There's three guys. There's Michael Shane. There's Brian Kendrick. There's Paul London. There's there's Brian Danielson. There's a kid up in the Northeast. His name is Tony Batista that I train, and he's doing very well up there. There's a guy I train who's in the Midwest. His name is Moonshine Mantel. I mean, good guys, all of them, and I would have no problem passing the torch. Well, I already have, but I mean, in that way, I'd have no problem passing the torch to those guys.
Yeah. If you could wrestle or have a segment with any actor, who would that be?
Sylvester Stallone. He's a friend of the business. He's a friend of wrestling, and as much hell as I give my wife, she's a big Sylvester Stallone fan. So am I. I followed him from years ago. Um, but just going back and forth, whether it's a scripted promo or whether it's just off the cuff, whatever, just to share that time with him, that'd be cool as shit.
Definitely, yeah. If you could guest star in any TV show and or movie, what would that be?
If I could get, I would. I mean, this no longer running, but I would go for Miami Vice. I thought that was a cool little show. They had different guests on there, from all walks of life, from all entertainment worlds and stuff. I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. When you were growing up, were you more of like a shy, quiet kid or outgoing, loud, and excited?
No, man, I was quiet. I kept to myself. Whoever I am today is not the same guy I was when I got into pro wrestling. It's night and day now. It's things I do today or things I say today, like being outspoken and being blunt and stuff. I wasn't like that when I was younger. I kept quiet. I kept to myself. And wrestling has changed me a lot, a lot.
Yeah. Well, since you said you were more like a shy, quiet kid growing up, when you didn't, you, I know you said that you didn't really know that you wanted to become a wrestler, but when you were starting to become a wrestler and started training and whatnot, what helped you cope out of being shy and all of that into knowing that you'd be performing in front of these big, large crowds and stuff?
I just watched guys like Gino Hernandez, like Ricky Morton, like Buddy Landell. A lot of those guys back in the day, they were just loud. They were just, like guys do promos today and they're scripted and they're doing promos like it's a business type meeting or something. Back in the day it was let me tell you something, brother. Ah, blah, 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 and so to practice doing that, to be in the position to do promos, you had to. That's the style that you had to learn. And so to do that, I'd have to stand in front of a mirror in the restroom at my apartment. And I'm sure the neighbors thought I was an idiot or crazy or something because I'd stare at myself in the mirror and put myself in a situation. I'm coming after you, Chavo Guerrero, blah, 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 and create little scenarios and use all the little catchphrases. What goes around comes around, whatever the hell that means. But, those were things guys said. Let me tell you something, and before I knew it, man, I'd go home. I wouldn't see my parents for a couple of weeks, for a month or so. And when I go see them, mom would be like, where have you been? I haven't seen you in a month. Don't worry where I've been at, mom. I've been all over the world. I've been, I'd cut a promo on her. And my dad would be like, don't talk to your mom that way. What's wrong with you? He thought I was like really yelling at her. But that was, that contributed a lot to me getting out of that little shell and stuff.
Yeah. What was your reaction to getting asked to wrestle for the WWF/WCW?
My mouth dropped. I was at home and a guy called me and he said, are you busy, you know, this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever it was? And I said, no, what's up? He says, do you want to go to Indianapolis? And I'm like, sure, for what? Um, WWF has some shows they're doing. They need some extras. Oh shit, yeah. How are we gonna get there? Give me your information. I need your name. Blah 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 blah, all that stuff, and they're gonna get plane tickets for us. I was like, oh shit. So yeah, so I got all that. I mean, I was kind of speechless, and I mean, I was still speechless when I walked in the building, and you see all these guys that Bundy and all these guys you see on TV, and now you see them walking by you: Bundy, Kurt Hennig, Hogan, Warrior, John Studd, Blackjack Mulligan, all these guys that you saw on TV, Sheiky. I mean, they're Duggan. They're walking by you, and it was just you know, um, my mouth was dropped. I mean, and then again, I wasn't even supposed to be doing this stuff. So someone thought enough of me to put me in that position, because it's not just you're not just going out there to put a guy over. I mean, there's a reasoning, there's a method to it. And I saw plenty of guys just get totally beat up because they just had no clue what to do. Um, I got to work with Razor Ramon. I got to work with Shawn Michaels. I got to work with all of those guys. And, I never had a guy come up to me and say, you screwed up. What the heck's wrong with you? But I saw a lot of that happen to other guys when I was backstage. And I always felt bad for those guys because, they're just trying to make a buck. And they're getting beat up on TV, and then they're getting beat up, no, well, not beat up, but they're getting yelled at in the back too. So it's like it's a lose-lose situation. Um, like me and a couple other guys, like uh, Louis Spicoli and some of the other guys, we would go to the back and shake a hand, thanks a lot, brother, and see you next time, that type of stuff. I felt privileged, man. I felt special.
Yeah. So you got along with most of the wrestlers back there, and like, would you say that they considered you as like one of the boys back in the locker room?
I wouldn't say I was one of the boys because I still kept myself separated from them. Like after the matches, the guys would go drinking and stuff, and I'd go to the hotel room. You know, I didn't take part in some of the stuff that and I'm sure you've read stuff, stories and stuff that went on during that time. I didn't take part in that stuff. I wasn't into the drugs. I wasn't into the pills. Certainly wasn't into steroids. I wasn't into that stuff. I just did my thing and went to the hotel and then came home. And then when we get home, then we hear later on, oh man, there was a big fight at this bar and everybody was there, and I'm like, I'm glad I wasn't there.
Yeah.
That just So I had respect of the guys, but there was always that, because to be part of the boys, you have to be part of the boys. You have to partake in the shenanigans and stuff like that. And I just never did. So I was part of the boys, but then again, I wasn't part of the boys.
Yeah. So you were kind of like part of the calm boy section. What is one memory slash match of yours that you'll never forget from the WWF WCW?
Can you repeat that?
What is one memory or match of yours that you'll never forget from WWF?
Can you repeat that?
Match that you'll never forget.
Um, I did a match with Virgil, and it's on YouTube somewhere. I saw it a while back, but I did a match with Virgil, and he pulled me to the side for WWF. He pulled me to the side and he says, "Okay, we're gonna do this, this, and this," and he ran this. He goes, "All right," and so we separate. And then a couple minutes later comes up. He goes, "Okay, what's the match?" And so I have to repeat it to him. And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, good, good, good." He goes, "All right." So we separate again. We're in catering. He goes, "All right, what's the first thing you do?" And so I repeat the match again to him, and he goes, "Yeah, yeah." So we did this about, I don't know, 50 times from 1 o'clock till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And then it's time for our match. We go to the ring. We lock up. He says, "What's the first thing we do, brother? I forgot." And I'm like, "Oh man!" So we did the match, and there's parts of it where you can see me telling him stuff during the match, and I'm calling the match for him, and um, it came out fine. I mean, um, no complaints.
Yeah. Who was one wrestler that was in there that you never got to get in the ring with that you wished you could have? Who did you wish you could get in the ring
Can you repeat
with?
that?
Who did you wish you could get in the ring with?
I don't know. I've gotten in the ring with just about everybody. I mean, um, it's hard to say. I really there's really no one on a list that I can that I can say that I will say, man, I wish I got in the ring with this guy or that guy. I got in the ring with almost everybody, and I got no complaints.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you, like, what was it like to be in the ring with, and what was he like in the ring? And I'm gonna like list the wrestler's name and just. So what was it like to be in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, and what was he like in the ring?
You broke up there. I didn't catch what you said.
What was it like to be in the ring with Eddie Guerrero, and what was he like in the ring?
Eddie was cool, man. I mean, I'm sure that we did our match. We did our tag match in Phoenix, and I'm sure. I mean, there's no match that's ever perfect from beginning to end. I'm sure there was some mistakes made by everybody, but he was able to just keep going. Just and so because he was able to keep going, we were able to keep going too. I mean, Eddie was very smooth. He was very, he was able to think on the spot. He was able to adjust. And again, I'm not. I don't. That was like in '91 or something. That's been a while, so I don't remember exactly how our match went. But I do. I will say that I'm sure it wasn't a perfect match, but I also don't remember many at all. I don't remember any. Oh my God, we screwed up that stuff. But I'm sure there was some mistakes, and I'm sure I know on my end I was able to go around and do whatever I needed to do. But and I know on his end, I'm sure on my end, that whatever cover ups I did try and do, you could probably see, but on his end, I didn't see any. I mean, it was just he's just very smooth.
Yeah. What about the Berserker?
So there was a guy named Bruiser Brody, and I worked with him several times. And then the Berserker came around, and I worked with him once or twice for WWF, and same thing. I mean, it was the same, different guys, just same gimmick. So it was easy to do. I mean, he just like stomped around and that type of stuff, whatever. And easy to work with.
Yeah. What about Ultraman?
Ultraman was my partner, or he might have been on Eddie Guerrero's side. I don't remember who he was. Um, I remember the tag match that we were in, and again, I don't remember a whole lot of to that match. I don't remember any really major mistakes or major, oh my God, we screwed up. But I mean, the match was enjoyable. And like I said, the only problem was when we went to the back, some guys didn't like it. Some guys thought it was great. I just don't think they were expecting a lucha or they appreciated the lucha style of wrestling. From what I remember, the Ultraman was another. I don't remember who he. I don't remember if he continued wrestling much longer after our match in Phoenix, but I do remember he was a good little worker though.
Hmm. What about Larry Zabisco?
Easy to work with, man. Larry was like, I mean, right before he went out, he just said, "Relax," just like what and that's where I got that from was I mean, I'm sure he could see I was nervous because I'm wrestling with a legend guy. And he just pulled me to the side and says, "Relax, we're gonna have fun, brother. We're gonna take it easy. Work, do this, do that, just listen." And so with that little conversation, we went out there and match was easy. It was great. We went, I think, like 7 or 8 minutes or something. It wasn't very long, but 7 or 8 minutes is a long. Could be a long time if you're screwing up left and right. But no, man, it was smooth. It was easy. It was just listening to him, calling his match, calling, whatever he wanted to do. And I got to do some stuff as well. It wasn't just one sided. And it was a lot of fun. Now, again, like I said earlier, I learned a lot from that match.
Hmm. What about Yokozuna?
Easy match, just, bump, brother. That was it really. It's he was I think at the time he was the WWF world champion, or he was on his way to being the world champion. So you just did whatever, gave you the karate chop and then took you to the corner and then sat on you. Now it's kind of scary because I mean he was such a big man, but I mean there's two ways of doing that. You can jump up and just put all your weight on the guy's chest and crush him, or you can jump up and land on him like a sack of pillows. And he was like a sack of pillows. He was just I didn't even realize the move was over until the referee started counting. I mean, it was so easy.
Hmm. What about Just Incredible?
So I did a match in Ring of Honor with I was in a group called the Texas Wrestling Academy, and Hernandez, Fast Eddie, Don Juan, me against the Carnage Crew, which was Masada, Loke, um, Masada, Loke, and the name is at the tip of my tongue. He came DeVito, and then Just Incredible, and so it was going to be hell. They were going to swing trash cans and chairs and all this stuff. So me and Just Incredible locked up. We went outside the ring, went outside the barricades, went to the crowd, and just punched and kicked each other to the back of the building, while the other guys did all the Home Depot stuff. I don't take part in that stuff, so and neither did he. So that was easy.
I'm surprised he didn't do much of that stuff as he was like an ECW original.
Yeah, no, I mean he was always very cool with me. He was always very nice, and I mean I had nothing negative. I seen stuff online about him, but I mean he was always nice to me, man. So nothing but respect for him from me anyway.
Yeah. What was your reaction to getting asked to wrestle for the NWA?
So the way that came about was Joe Blanchard got hired through Telly, I believe, when it was Ted Turner WCW or Crockett's WCW, and so Joe's job was he was an event coordinator, and which meant that he had to go to all the towns that we wrestled in, and he would set up the TV and the newspaper, and on show days he had to take the ring. So he actually had a ring that he put in the U-Haul, take it to whoever. So I was always the guy that even after he closed down, we stayed in touch. I babysat his house when him and his wife would go visit Tully in Charlotte. So I always kept in contact with the family. And so one day he just called me and says, Rudy, he goes, are you available next week? Are you going out of town anywhere? I said, no. He goes, would you like to work? Would you like to help me for a show? He said, just be in my house. The show's the show is Saturday. Be in my house Friday morning, and we'll take off from here. That's all right. So I met him at his house. We drove to Tahlequah, put the ring up. He couldn't do much, so I did the ring by myself, and did the show and took it down and took the ring down. Came back home, and then the next day he asked me to come by his house to do paperwork and stuff. So I did, and I was getting hired, and I was getting paid for. I mean, if I sneezed, I would have gotten paid. Um, and so that's how I got my job through Joe Blanchard. So again, back to I wasn't even supposed to be doing this stuff. So here I am now working for the NWA, and so that lasted. Well, it was WC. It was no, it was NWA. Yeah, it was for Jim Crockett. So that lasted for a few months, and then Crockett sold his company to Ted Turner, and so it became WCW. And so that lasted about a year and a half or so, and that was great, man. That was, like I said, I got paid for everything. I got paid for travel. I got paid for putting the ring up. I got paid for refereeing. I got to wrestle a few matches here and there. I got paid for that. So if every day that I traveled, that was a payday. So I mean, I worked like I wrestled 42 days. I mean, I worked 42 days for them in 1 year, which is like a month and a half. And my pay for that year from just NWA or whatever was like $15,000, which a month and a
Wow.
half. That's which 42 days actually amounts to a month and a half. So my total was $15,000 for the year. And then I was also doing stuff for WWE, and I was also going to Mexico. So I was doing really good that 1 year. Well, actually, I was 2 or 3 years. Um, and then business started going down, and so they released Joe. And Joe said, I've been released. He goes, you may want to call the office and see what your status is. So I called and I talked to a guy named Jody Hamilton. And Jody said, yeah, we're downsizing. We're letting people go. He says, but once things pick up again, he goes, I'm going to make sure I call you back. I said, all right. So he hung up, and I'm still waiting for that call back.
So, if now in your career the NWA asks you to return to make such as like an appearance, one last run, one more match, or Legends Night, or anything to be even signed, would you take up that offer?
What was that?
If the NWA asked you now in your career,
You broke up there.
would you take up NWA offer now?
Oh, of course. Of course I would. I think Billy Corrigan is doing a good job with the company. Um, I think they're going good. They're doing good stuff. They're going slowly. They're not trying to become a major company again overnight. And it's taking some time, and that's the way you need to do things. I mean, there's no way in the world you're going to overtake WWE ever. But there's nothing wrong with being the second company or even the third company, as long as you're profitable and you got fans coming in. And if they felt that I could help out in some way, shape, or form, yeah, by all means, I would jump at it.
Yeah. So, what is one thing you would tell your fans?
Can you repeat that?
One thing you would tell your wrestling fans.
Um, just thank you. Just thank you. Just I mean, for being there, for supporting me, for cheering me or booing me, whatever it is that you did, whatever it is that if I brought enjoyment to your wrestling experience, thank you. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So I got one last question for you. Do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler?
Can you repeat that?
Do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler?
Suggestion for you to become a wrestler?
Yeah.
I would say do your research. I'm not saying the Texas Wrestling Academy is the end all be all. I'm saying it's a good alternative, but there's other schools that are out there that are just as good. Do your research, ask questions, go visit the school. Just because a good school is across the country and there's a cheaper school down your street doesn't mean that the cheaper school is your best option. Pro wrestling, unfortunately, a big part of it is travel. So one way to get used to traveling is by relocating to whatever school you want to go to. Don't take the easy way around things. You end up, you know, you'll end up regretting it. You'll end up paying more money than you should. You'll end up wasting your time. You may end up getting a bad taste in your mouth and not want to deal with wrestling anymore. And that's not good. There's so many opportunities today. As long as you go down the right paths, you should do well. What are the right paths? I don't know. We're all different. So, but there are places that you need to be part of. There are places that you should be part of if you want to get to the next step.
Thank you. And I thank you for taking your time out to do this interview with me.
Hey, I did one a couple of days ago, and you guys do a great job doing what you do. I tried doing this at one point, and I think I did 6 episodes, and I was like done. I was done. Thank you for taking the time out to talk to me. We've been here 3 hours. Um, there's other people out there that you could have talked to than just me. I totally appreciate the time that you've given me to come on your podcast. I very much appreciate it. I thank you.
Yeah. And I just thank you again for taking your time out. It's a pleasure to have wrestlers like you on my show and talk about your guys' history and stuff. So,
Yes, sir.
well, I hope you have a good rest of your night and thank you again.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
Yep, you too.